So there's something I've been meaning to talk about, something that's been on my mind, so I've been kind of hesitant to talk about. Is how I was saying before, and I stand by this. I'm done with gender critical ideology, and I'm leaving the GC cult. And I believe that the peaking cult, which is where people try to peak trans people into detransitioning or unaliving themselves, is very evil. And I find it very akin to the LGB to ex-gay pipeline that does exist, because if you look at some of the leaders of the LGBT movement, you have people like Ollie London, people who push this pray the gay away kind of mentality, like Milo Yiannopoulos. KJK obviously has no problem working with fascists. And something that hit me when this subject really kind of popped up about a month ago was how much certain people are going to be afraid of the backlash from the GC community, from speaking out against the Peking cult, from leaving them. It's going to be assumed that you're becoming a traw again. And like I said before, fuck them too. I'm not okay with these echo chambers that try to make such false promises to people and trap them into their ideology. And something that I've learned over the time of leaving trans activism behind me and getting very much trapped in the gender critical ideology is that a lot of GCs, a lot of their activists, they don't want us to be happy. They don't believe in dysphoria, and they don't want us to do things that would actually cure our dysphoria if it has anything to do with transitioning, because they hate trans people. They'd rather see you suffer. If you detransition and not, is better off for you, that works for them too, and they will use you to fuel their agenda. So, it's nothing against detrans people that I've supported. I feel very much that y'all need to go your own way, away from the GC movement, away from these conservatives and these radical religious fundamentalists that just want to use you as a prop. And I think that at the end of the day, between detrans and trans, because I have detrans friends, and between being on the trans activist side and the GC side, it's no matter how much you just try to be in the middle, there will be some kind of incremental amount that they push you one way or the other. And you can still be moderate and not extreme and kind of in the middle, but you got to pick a side, and they're going to make you do it. And doesn't mean that you don't want to police your side at any degree. Doesn't mean that you agree with everything on your side, but I'm team trans because I love trans women, and I love a lot of trans people that I care about, and I want to be there to support them, even if they are butthurt about something I've said in the past or something I will say in the future, because I'm going to be true to myself. I'm not going to give you some lame ass apology video that doesn't mean shit, because you're going to be offended by the things I say anyways. But what I am saying is that I feel isolated from the ideological capture of the gender critical movement, and from a lot of the conservatives and anti-trans people that I found myself in the mix of. And I mean, I'm for these kinds of more rational, moderate trans policies and things I've advocated for, and I'm not changing that. But by me being so vocal and loud, I've isolated myself. I'm T for T. I like dating trans women. I don't like knowing that the things I say makes them feel invalid and ugly and stupid. I don't like that the things I say hurts their feelings. And I think about myself, being in their position, put myself in their shoes, seeing things I say and I do, and I just I'm not gonna sit here and make a million apologies, but I don't want to hurt people who are like me, who could be very compassionate, forgiving, caring, excellent lovers, people who would be a part of my life, who are not like these deranged examples, these extreme examples that we are talking against in so much of my content. And that's the thing, I think there should be some gatekeeping, and I think gatekeeping is good. But that shouldn't come at the expense of our dignity. We shouldn't have to shill or bootlick or kowtow to a very negative narrative about what we are, what our life is like. Okay, we can use anti-trans material for gatekeeping purposes and to educate young trans people, new transitioners, people who are more naive to some of the traps and extreme ideologies you can fall into. You could fall into these more ideological branches of trans activism and you could end up like I was. Or you could end up getting sucked into the ideological capture and find yourself in the ex-gay movement one day and like, holy fuck, how'd you get there? I don't know. Why don't, you know, why doesn't Ollie London speak about that pipeline when he's sitting there saying that the LGB should get rid of the T? Why hasn't he, you know, addressed the fact that supposedly he joined the church and he's just all better now? It sounded to me, and I could be wrong, I could be mistaken, that he's ex-gay now, right? I mean, that's the impression I get. And even if that's not exact, if that's not accurate, like the reason I'm getting that impression is because it's true. There is an LGBTQ pipeline. And so for on the GC side, for you guys to platform people like Matt Walsh and these religious bigots, it's just loud and clear what your movement eventually is leading to. And just like extreme trans activism, we've seen, you know, plenty of bad examples of what that leads to. But I care about trans women. I care about trans people. I can relate to them. And if anything, I want them to take from my videos, from my examples of cringy, some violent, threatening, you know, very bad examples of us. Take from that. And if you're a decent person who's dysphoric and wants to transition, like, learn from those lessons. Or even if you're not trans, like, some of those bad eggs, right? Those don't represent all of us. Like some of the GCs and conservatives will want you to think. But those people do exist and they are a problem. So it's good to be aware of them. But just beware, you know, when you start digging into that stuff, there's extremists on both sides, and the extremists on the trans activist side will cancel you, will pressure you to hate yourself. And when they start isolating you, the peaking cult will come in and start love bombing you. And that's what you need to be really careful with. And that's what happened to me when, you know, just a few months after the Popeyes incident, I'm, you know, not getting anything from the left, any attention, anyone want to talk to me or anything. They're too busy defending this WeSpa sex pest. And you have Antifa, like, beating up women in the streets. And the people who would talk to me were like gender critical rad femmes and Kiwi farmers and my threat. And so when the community does that, when you say something wrong, like I want the community to maybe be more forgiving when somebody says something cancelable or says something stupid or just something you don't agree with. You don't have to call them transphobic right away. But at the same time, I say that message to the trans community, and not out of scorn anymore, but like out of love. Like I want better for the community. You know, but also at the same time, it's just, you know, like, just you want to be aware of, like, when you do that, like, in those trans people that you're dogpiling and you're, you know, accusing of heresy for not obeying our dogma in the trans community, you push them towards those extreme groups, you push them towards the peaking cult, and they will just take advantage of that. It's like predatorial. And I just want to use what little bits left of my platform before I completely get off of here, because I, quite frankly, I hate being on here. I'm embarrassed a little bit. I feel like I got taken for a ruse. I feel like I got used. I feel like I might have promoted bigoted and transphobic legislation that's actually happening and hurting trans people. And I feel like shit about it, honestly. And I'm not taking back everything I said. And people are going to go through and be like, oh, this, and this, you say this now, and they're going to be like, oh, you're a trogan, or you still say this, you're still a TERF. Like, I'm an ex-TERF. and I'm an extra. And I've learned things from being in those extreme groups that I can't unlearn. And I just wanted to make this video to say that I love trans women. I'm T for T. I miss having a lot of trans women in my life. And, you know, I'm not going to ask you to forgive me for everything. I'm not going to apologize for everything, but I just want to support trans women somehow, however I can, without being dishonest. I'm not going to be fake. But I realize, like, I have a lot of privilege that I don't really have to ask much from society. I'm able to live as a trans woman and not really face as many problems as you see me talking about facing in the beginning of this video. Like, I've changed a lot since then, and I don't really have the same problems I did. So I think about trans women who do, and I don't want them to go through what I went through, to learn things the hard way. And so want to still be around, but it's not for this GC movement that wants to keep me at arm's length and use me when it's convenient for them, when they can use me as an example of one of the good ones. I want to be here for, you know, people who are like me, who need the support, and people who are going through things that, like, I went through for the past couple of years, the kind of hell I went through. I want to be here to support them. So that's it. That's the point of this video. You know, I'm down with extremism, down with the dogma. Like, just end it all. Get out of these purity spirals, these toxic echo chambers. Leave them today. But at the end of the day, like, I do support trans women, and I think that, you know, I think adults that have dysphoria have every fucking right to transition, and should, and there should be nothing getting in the way of that. Once you're 18, it's like there should be nothing. Like, besides, like, maybe, you know, extreme situations, someone can't make these decisions for themselves, but even, you know, it's like they just want to make it so hard for us. As dysphoric trans women who transitioning could save our lives, and every year that we grow older with testosterone, it just makes it harder for us to go on. It's something that we should be allowed to do, and it does have medical purposes. It does. Dysphoria is a real illness, and I want that to be protected ultimately. So if people, you know, like I said, they're going to make you choose a side, and if people are going to narrow it down and push me to take a side, you know, are you in favor of allowing the transition, even though all of the consequences that might occur? Yes. Okay, because I don't want to live in a society where we are required to wear, by law, gendered clothing. I mean, like I said, I don't really have to ask that much of the other side. I don't even use one's bathrooms. But I don't insist everybody has to live like me. And I know that not everybody has the same level of privilege as me. Not everybody has access to a single-use bathroom every day at work. There's a lot of things I could go into, the differences between my life and other people's life. Somebody said something to me that kind of really bothered me. It just seems like a lot of my arguments and my content goes in the direction of designating myself as, like, the exception or one of the good transes, and I really don't want to be that way. So if you get this, like, and you're the one who said that, like, know that I listened to what you said, but also just know that, like, I don't want to be like that. Like, I'm no better than anybody. I'm no better than any of these trials, any of these GCs, any of these people in the middle. Like, I'm just a person, you know. But like, I'm not here to, like, prove I'm better than anybody. I'm just a person, and I get lonely, and so when I try to get away from trans people all mad at me, saying, like, for me to unalive and calling me ugly and stupid, you know, I try to get away, and then I feel lonely and I miss the internet. I come back on and I'm getting love bombed by the GCs right away, and makes me want to come back and interact with them, and then it's the same trap. So I need trans women in my life. If you're trans, if you're a hot trans woman and you know, fucking slide in my DMs. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm here for transum, and I'm here to defend T for T. I'm here to defend trans joy, and um, you know, I trust me. Like, a lot of the things I've said over the years, like, I stand by it. But I think it's very important at this point where there's so much on the line, and they're trying so hard to stigmatize trans women and make things so difficult for us just to live our lives. I think it is important that I finally just step up to the plate and say, like, hey, I'm on Team Tranny. So I'm sorry to repeat myself, but yes, I am on Team Tranny. If you don't like that, if you think I'm just a fucking piece of shit now because of it, it probably was never really meant to be, bro. So I'm not gonna sweat. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. Like, y'all have a good night, okay? Like, I don't hate anybody. I don't, you know, I'm not trying to, like, push away anybody with GC views, obviously. I probably still agree with you on a lot of things. I haven't, like, changed my views overnight. That would be very fake. But have given this a lot of thought, and I definitely want to support, like, people like me going through things like I went through so that they don't have to suffer so much. And I think that's probably the most positive thing I can do moving forward. Thank you.